Hey there, how are you? I am Clarence and today we'll talk about the best Nintendo Switch games that are on sale right now. We will be covering the UK, Europe, US, Australia, and Canada eShop. But first and foremost, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you want to see more of this series, please leave a like, remember to subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell to receive future notifications. Likes and subscriptions help keep the channel alive. To start up our list, Self. Self does a great job of using the text-based RPG format to make a thrilling story in a confusing world with a dark look. I would recommend it to people who care more about the story than the gameplay because the bullet dodging minigames aren't very hard. Some dialogue choices lead to slow sequences where 10 text boxes discuss whether or not to pick up the phone or open the door. But in the end, the player's choice doesn't matter. It's also annoying that there is no skip button during replays. This and other rough spots show that Self is an independent game with a small budget, but it's still a good text experience, and the story stuck with me long after I finished all the possible paths. But as I said at the beginning, the point of the game isn't to find all the endings. Instead, each branch shows a different side of modern society and a person's weakness or strength. The tragedy of life, according to Self, is that as we get older, we learn and grow, but the deaths of loved ones make up for this. Next is Time on Frog Island. In the puzzle game Time on Frog Island, you must exchange items with the villagers in order to repair your ship and return home. Because there is no real dialogue or map, you must rely on your exploration skills to locate these items. This game has a touching story and a cute art style, so you can easily spend a few hours playing it. Time on Frog Island is a charming and intriguing game, but how you play it will determine how much you enjoy it. The amusing frog characters and their little society can be entertaining to interact with, and as you progress deeper into the trade network, you'll discover more and more surprises. However, as you progress, Time on Frog Island became a one-trick pony. Running errands for frogs can be entertaining for a while, but without a map or a good way to keep track of requests, even this simple task becomes more difficult than necessary. I'd give this game a light recommendation because the relaxing atmosphere and cute characters make Time on Frog Island worth playing. Sherlock Holmes, Crimes and Punishments. Sherlock Holmes, Crimes and Punishments is a thrilling detective puzzle game that immerses players in a masterfully crafted Sherlock Holmes story. With one existing Sherlock Holmes case and 5 new cases created specifically for the game, Crimes and Punishments does an excellent job of solving mysteries. The player has a lot of leeway in deciding how to approach each case and what to do next. Even though the graphics on the Nintendo Switch aren't as good as they could be and the controls can be a little awkward at times, this is a very engaging experience that will keep fans of detective stories interested. Overall, this is the best Sherlock Holmes game I have seen. This is not a sloppy downgrade, as developer Frogwares has created a full-featured and engaging experience from start to finish. It looks fantastic and performs admirably. The only drawbacks are some minor annoyances and some weak puzzles that you can skip. The game's tolerance for mistakes makes it feel less predetermined and inevitable than other detective games, which is pretty cool. It's ironic that it took one of the form's oldest characters to come up with such a novel idea. Next is Gerda, A Flame in Winter. Gerda, A Flame in Winter isn't a huge leap forward for adventure games, but it does add some interesting gameplay elements that complement the game's intriguing and heavy story. We're so used to playing war games in which we kill people that we forget that there are good guys and bad guys on both sides of a war. This game is a prime example of this, demonstrating how enjoyable a war game can be without the tired Rambo formula so prevalent in FPS and third-person shooter games. Gerda, A Flame in Winter is an important story-driven adventure that stands up to the publisher Don't Nod's other similar titles. Just don't expect to be happy during this slow-paced, solemn occasion. Gerda, A Flame in Winter is a thrilling journey through a little-known historical conflict. The story is told with wit and compassion, and it demonstrates how difficult it is to be a civilian during a war. Kao the Kangaroo. Kao the Kangaroo is a platformer with numerous ways to play, though it takes some time for them to reach their peak. Aside from that, wandering around here is entertaining, but don't rely on the game's save system. A fantastic little 3D platformer that strives to provide players with a solid and exciting experience. The core experience and the story of Kao have been significantly improved and redesigned. The solid controls and strong visual design of Kao the Kangaroo should impress. If players can get past the fact that the visual quality on Switch suffers, this is a game that all fans of similar games should strongly consider purchasing. This this new Kao the Kangaroo makes an effort, but it only feels like half the game it should be. The final world is a single level with a boss fight that is riddled with bugs. Still, it's a fun enough romp for what it is, and I hope to see more of this marsupial in the future. Next is Cyber Protocol. The escape the maze puzzles in Cyber Protocol are simple at first, but they quickly become more difficult by adding twists and new ways to do things. This neon-colored puzzle game with a synth soundtrack features single-player and multiplayer modes, as well as a large number of levels. It's easy to say that Cyber Protocol is more about appearance than substance, but with this much style, that's not always a bad thing. Even though the level layouts will vary greatly, you can't help but feel like you're playing the same level. There aren't many checkpoints in some of these levels, and it's easy to die, so it's not uncommon to have to repeat the same section several times before you get the timing and pattern right. However, that may be of interest to some, if not many. Pac-Man is one of the most addictive and popular games of all time, so even though Cyber Protocol isn't an exact copy, it's a good place to start if you're going to copy from anywhere. AngerForce Reloaded. Even if it lacks the arcade roots that have made other Switch shoot-em-ups so popular, it's clear that the team behind AngerForce Reloaded understands what makes this type of game so enjoyable. It has tight controls, great graphics, and a difficult challenge, but the addition of a deep campaign mode with a slew of unlockable upgrades and abilities to extend the life of AngerForce Reloaded significantly. Despite the lack of a big-name IP, fans of the genre should get this as soon as possible. The story mode is an excellent place to begin for those who have never played a game like this before. AngerForce Reloaded was a lot of fun for me until I realized that I'd have to grind missions over and over to advance in the game. I assumed that playing for 5 to 20 minutes at a time was sufficient to rack up points, purchase 1 or 2 power-ups, and then take a break. As long as you know how to use the vertical view, this is ideal for playing on the go. Next is A Gummy's Life. A Gummy's Life contains both sweet and sour candies. The free-for-all mode is entertaining to play, but it becomes tedious after an hour if you don't have any friends to play with. Other modes are similar to decorating a muffin to make it look like a cupcake. It's not a bad game, and it has no major flaws. It's a great game to play with a group of friends when you just want to have some good fighting game fun. Ragdolling, falling down, and throwing each other around can make for some amusing and entertaining moments. However, when it's just the player and a few bots, the AI flaws and the fact that you can't always play online make it less enjoyable. Even if they only last a few minutes, couch competitions are entertaining. That's the only way to play a game like this, so players can get excited by each other's excitement. However, if your party will last longer than an hour, make sure to bring some other activities for when the excitement wears off. Candleman. Candleman is a fun mobile game to play because the levels are short and can be completed whenever you want. It's also simple to replay because the goal of each level is to light candles, but it's not very long. It's a shame because I believe there could have been so much more to learn. Candleman, on the other hand, is the best game I can think of to play if you want a short, thought-provoking game that won't take up all your time and won't cost you a fortune. Candleman is a fairly short game, even with the extra levels, but it was just the right length and didn't drag on for too long. The game's heartwarming story works well with the storybook style, and it would be a great activity for a family to do together. Next is Golf Story. I was already intrigued by the prospect of a golf game with an overworld, side quests, statistics, and leveling, but it turned out to be much more. It's easy to get into because it doesn't try to be a simulation, and I'd recommend it to people who don't even like golf. Despite some technical issues, Golf Story is an unexpected and excellent addition to the Switch's eShop. Golf Story is a love story between golf and classic RPGs that combine two great game types. It's entertaining, varied, generous, and technical. The game has excellent dialogue and direction, as well as a large number of courses, but it may not be too difficult enough in the end. Golf Story is a fantastic game that every Switch owner should own. It has a crazy cast, simple gameplay, and beautiful art, all of which combine to make for a very satisfying experience. Heaven Dust 2. Heaven Dust 2 is a must-have for fans of survival horror games. It's a clear homage to Resident Evil, and despite being played from an isometric perspective, it gives you the same feeling as the original games. Even though the story is based on an old idea, it manages to surprise you, and the settling allows you to lose yourself in the game for the few hours you spend with it. Heaven Dust 2 is the most enjoyable survival horror game I've ever played in a long time. It's perfect in the sense that it feels like it's from the past. It also has a rewarding campaign structure and simple battles that require some strategy. Heaven Dust 2 is a fantastic game for fans of Capcom's classic survival horror titles, a fantastic independent game that will transport us to a different era. Last but not the least, DEEMO. Fly High Works' second Switch Symphony is just as good as the first. DEEMO is a fantastic rhythm game with a fantastic soundtrack, enjoyable controls, and a surprisingly moving story. It has a distinct feel due to the beautiful art and emphasis on the piano, but it does not limit the music in any way. Because of its good pacing and difficulty options, it's simple to learn and enjoyable for players of all skill levels. DEEMO is a smash hit, so music fans should not pass it up. Its minimalist design is intended to emotionally connect with players rather than intellectually or physically. The end result is similar to sitting down at a piano and playing a favorite song, but without the benefit of an audience or a test of musical ability. DEEMO understands that some people play music simply because they enjoy it. People occasionally play music for the sake of enjoyment. This is by far the best version of the game, and it's a fantastic rhythm game that ranks alongside Super Beat Sonic as my favorite on the platform. That's all guys, I hope this video was helpful in deciding which game to play, and thank you for checking out the list. Please remember to subscribe and we'll see you at the next one.